Again, my name is Pat Dolan. I'm co-UNESCO chair with Alan Smith and Mark Brennan, who are the UNESCO chairs, kind of co-organising this event in collaboration with others. Just to say before we start the session that, first of all, for those of you that are in caffeine weakness, coffee was served earlier, and but there will be coffee, and there's a lunch and coffee and so forth at 1 o'clock. Just to say before I introduce our next set of speakers, to say that we have a special guest coming at 12:30 who is going to speak for about 15 minutes or so, and that will be Eamon O'Shea, who's the Tipperary hurling manager, and from our friends in America, he has an important date here on Sunday week. This Sunday week, I think, isn't it? Yeah, for the All-Ireland final. He's manager of the hurling team who was in the final of the All-Ireland, and also a colleague of mine at NUI Galway. So ahead of that, as you will have noticed from the programme, we have tried to use as much diversity in looking at the whole area of civic engagement and engagement of young people, not just solely within sport, but in areas related to sport. And that includes issues of ability and issues of inclusion. And while I think that I want to particularly mention Catherine Carty, who's here from Tralee Institute of Technology. Tralee Institute of Technology have just recently been awarded a UNESCO chair in this area as well. We're delighted that she's here as a partner in this event as well. But I had the fortune of being contacted by J.K. Rowling's organisation Lumos, and J.K. Rowling, of course, was very famous for Harry Potter, but she should equally be as famous for her work with her charity Lumos. And Georgette Mulhare, who also has been with us today, is CEO of Lumos, but she, for personal reasons, can't be here today, but I'll come back to that in a moment. But I'm delighted because of the work of Lumos. Lumos is really about an amazing vision to look at the deinstitutionalisation of young people over the coming years, and about civic engagement and including of young people of all ability, and not looking on ability in any different way, and is a global organisation. And we, in the UNESCO Child and Family Research Centre, we're looking forward to a future collaboration with Lumos. So we have with us young people from the Czech Republic, and they will, I hopefully will not be embarrassing in my attempt at speaking Czech, but they are Kristina Obita, who's a youth advocate, Martin Cialka, a youth advocate, Ingrid Hanzlikova from Lumos, Zlata Bruskova, from Lumos. And we have Roger Singleton. And Roger is very kindly works with Lumos and very kindly will introduce the session as we go forward. But I think we're getting something here that is really important, and it came up in certainly what the way we looked at the way that digital digital media can be used, sound can be used with young people, and also Hugo McNeil and Alan's comments about, and our friends and our colleagues, about looking at sport as a wider concept and looking at inclusion as a wider concept. And our core theme is about civic engagement. So I think this is very apt, and you're in for something, I think, which is different and very special. So with that, I'll hand you over to Roger Singleton. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pat, and good morning, everybody. Just by way of brief introduction, my own work in the institutionalisation and de-institutionalisation of children goes back over 40 years to the 70s, 80s and 90s, when I was the chief executive of the UK charity Barnardo's, and we played a leading part in the removal of literally thousands of children from what in those days we called mental handicap hospitals, to return to live with their families, or to live with foster families, or to live in small family group homes in the community. And for the benefit of our American colleagues who are here today, we were much inspired in that work by the experience of what was then called NCORE, the Eastern Nebraskan Central Office of Retardation, They had done a lot of pioneering work in their state, and we were able in the UK to draw very significantly from that. As Pat has mentioned, Lumos was founded by the children's author J.K. Rowling. Joe visited an Eastern European country and some 8 or 9 years ago, and was taken to an institution and was absolutely appalled by the sight of children in what she subsequently described as caged beds, and returned to the UK not only to write about that, but also to make a contribution towards the ending of that practice. And so she provided very generous start-up funding for the Lumos Foundation, and is still extremely actively involved. She'll be attending a board meeting in just a couple of weeks of time. And since the charity was founded, then it's worked in partnership with governments mainly in Central and Eastern Europe, with their local government colleagues and with local charities and NGOs to develop policies which will prevent the admission of children in the first place to large institutions, and will also work with those children who are already in the institutions to bring them out. And the charity works nationally with ministers and national government senior civil servants, at local level by providing demonstration projects. What we try to do is to say, look, this is how it's done. It's a little bit more than talk, so that it can be looked at and seen and felt, and can become the basis of training and research and the dissemination of good practice. So I think this would really be quite a good point if we had a look at a short video about Lumos. I promise you it is short.
Right now, 8 million children around the world are living in institutions that deny them individual love and care, that can damage their brain development and destroy their understanding of right and wrong. This is a serious problem, but one that I know we can solve. More than 90% of these children are not orphans and have families who love them and want them. But in many countries, health, education and social services do not meet the needs of all children. Those living in poverty, with disabilities or behavioural issues often fall through the gaps. Maria is one of these children. Her parents are poor and have run out of food, so tomorrow she'll be taken away from them and brought to an institution. They'll be told this is the only option. She will be robbed of her identity and reduced to a number. With little physical and emotional contact, Maria will soon forget what it feels like to be loved. Isolated, locked away, and forgotten by the world, Maria's future will be bleak. The system will fail her, and years later she will be released as a young adult with little education, no relationship with her family, unprepared and unable to survive in the outside world. She will be 10 times more likely to be involved in prostitution, 40 times more likely to have a criminal record, 500 times more likely to commit suicide. Maria's story is not unique. This will be her future, but it doesn't have to be. Lumos is working to transform this uncaring system and can actually solve the problem by changing the equation. The same resources spent on institutions can be used to support services in the community, such as financial assistance and social programs for poor families, and training for institution personnel to become teachers and foster parents. Together, we can ensure that all children like Maria will be raised in a family environment where they get the love they need and the future they deserve. Please join me.
One of the distinctive features of Lumos's work right from its inception was to try and involve young people themselves in every aspect of the policy influencing and development of deinstitutionalisation programmes. Some of those people, young people, will themselves have experienced life in an institution, others not. It is an enormous pleasure for me to welcome two young people, Christina and Martin, together with their participation workers, Zlata and Ingrid, who've travelled from the Czech Republic purely to attend the conference today and will be shooting off after lunch to the airport to get back. So I'm going to ask them in just a few minutes to do their own rather unique presentation to you. I'm sure that there will be questions which we'll be very happy to receive and to respond to. And perhaps a final point from me, whilst you're listening and looking at what's being presented, would you like just to have at the back of your mind, as it were, the primary panel question, namely, how does social inclusion contribute to deinstitutionalisation and equality for people with disabilities? Thank you for listening so far. Zlata, over to you.
So, good morning everybody. My name is Zlata Brušková. I came from Czech Republic with our two self-advocates, and we are very happy to come to Croke Park Symposium. And this is my colleague.
Hello, I'm Ingrid, and I'm colleague of Zlatka, and I'm also Lumos Child Participation Officer in the Czech Republic, in Prague.
So we work mostly with vulnerable children, because Lumos works on many levels, and this is one of them, that we are working directly with the children who are usually placed in an institution, and we try to help them to be involved in decision-making processes about the things they are very important for them in their everyday life. And we are working with the children who are placed in the institution, who are in the process of DI, the institutionalization. So we try to help and encourage the staff to provide the opportunities for children to make decisions, to feel that they can live a normal life. We try to do this through art, drama, and a lot of other activities. And these two self-advocates were involved in a project we worked in, Turning Words into Action, which was mainly focused on child participation. So we really tried to not just work with children, but what was maybe harder was to change the attitudes of the staff in the institution. To explain these issues a bit more, I would like to tell you just a bit about the background in Czech Republic about the institutions, because Czech Republic is on the top of children who are placed in institutions from all EU, which is a very, very sad fact for us, but we are working very hard on changing this. There are about 140,000 children in EU placed in institutions, and about 10% is in the Czech Republic, which is now about 9,500, which is still quite a lot. But the most common reason in Czech Republic to place children in institutions are social circumstances or just social conditions of families, which could be solved very easily by social services in the community. But it's still very hard to change or to persuade the public meaning that the institutions are fine, because the quality of care in Czech Republic is quite high, because children, they have everything. You can hear this very often from the people in the public, but it can be never like in a family, because they just don't have love and the personal and individual care of one primary care, basically. So that's why we came here to show you some movies and some things from our self-advocates, and just to uncover a bit stories of people we work with. So I would like to let's introduce our self-advocates.
Já jsem Kristýna Oputová, pocházím z Čech, bydlím ve Slatíňanech, v zařízením v ústavu. Já bydlím v domečku s kamarádama a chodím je navštěvovat do ústavu.
So my name is Kristina Opotova. I'm 19 years old and I lived in an institution since my childhood. And I used to live in a big institution, and a couple of years ago I moved to a small family group home, which is still within the ground of the institution. And I'm used to visit my friends in the institution, usually.
Dobrý den, já se jmenuji Martin. Přijel jsem k vám z České republiky a chtěl bych se vám ještě představit Zlatku a Jinku, který nás podporují.
So I'm Martin Chyba, I'm 21, I came from Czech Republic as two. I live in a family and I attend school for children with special needs. And I would like to introduce and say thank you to Inka and Zlatka because they support us while we coming here.
Chtěli bychom vám ukázat video, které jsme natočili.
And we would like to show you a short animation we created together.
Natočili jsme ho s panáčkama, který jsme namalovali, a pak jsme je vystříhali a pak jsme je ještě nafotili.
And we created the animation by the figures we made by ourselves. We just draw them and then we cut them out and then we took many pictures of the figures and we put everything all together. So we call it stop motion.
A přejeme vám hezkou zábavu.
And we wish you to enjoy that.
Now you could see the movie about Christie's and Martin's free time and what they like doing, but if you recognize that we put the but at the end of the movie, because sometimes many of the activities we just discovered while we were working with them that many of them are just about dreaming and they are not realized in fact in the real life. So because we really worked with them about 2 hours, 2 years, 2 years by now. So it was for them a very long way, and during this time we really discovered a lot of things that they can learn through these events, and just when we work with them very closely, that they can talk about themselves and then find out that maybe some of things that they would like to do, they actually present them, that they just do them. You know, that in the institutions many things are not just possible to do, but when they talk about this, it's sometimes that they just don't recognize that it just doesn't happen. So that's why we just prepared for you the short presentation to uncover their stories and to make it easier for them. We just did some preparation for it, but we will have the special reporter here to make a live interview with Christy and Martin here. So she will ask them, and we will just put some key answers on the screen, but they will also answer by their own. So just to let you understand more about themselves.
Takže já vám moc děkuji za vaši animaci, která byla úžasná, a pojďme teďka společně skrze ten rozhovor zjistit vlastně víc o vás a o tom, jestli můžete dělat ty aktivity, které vás baví.
I'm very happy about your animation, and let's now try to explore more about you.
Chtěla jsem se tebe, Kristý, teda kolik je ti roků a kde vlastně teďka bydlíš?
Takže je mi 19 let, bydlím v
I'd
domě.
like to ask you how old are you and where do you live? And I live in small family group home and I'm 19.
Děkuji. A ty, Marťo, kde bydlíš?
Samozřejmě věděl.
And Marty, where do you live? And what about my age? You didn't ask me about age.
Teď je mě 21
I'm 21.
a bydlím v Pardubicích.
I live in Pardubice, which is quite a big town in Czech Republic, and I live with my family in family house.
Tak, děkuji, to je krátké seznámení. Ještě jednou, zopakování. A teď jsem se chtěla zeptat, Kristý, tebe, kdo rozhoduje o tom, jaké aktivity ve svém volném čase budeš dělat? Nebo ještě tady vidím, mám nápovědu. Jaké aktivity, kdo rozhoduje vlastně, co během dne takhle děláš, když přijdeš ze školy?
No, tak dělám si úkoly,
So when I came back from school, I usually do my homework, I watch TV, and I like listening to music.
Děkuji. Tak a ty, Marťo, jaký je tvůj den po škole?
Takže vyvenčím pejska.
So I go usually for walk with my dog, I do my homework,
A pak pomáhám mamce.
and I usually help my mom with some homeworks.
Děkuji. Tak, a už se k tomu dostáváme blíž. Kristý, kdo rozhoduje o tom, jaké aktivity můžeš dělat ve svém volném čase?
no,
Who decides about your leisure
vždycky o
activities?
tom rozhoduje paní vychovatelka nebo buď paní učitelka.
So it's usually decided by some carer in an institution or my teacher in a school, because we have just limited offer of some leisure activities.
Děkuji. Teď se ptáme Martina na tu samou otázku. Kdo rozhoduje
I will ask Martin about the same question.
o volných aktivitách, které budeš dělat?
Takže domlouvám se na tom s rodičema.
So I usually have to agree with my parents what I would like to do, and then if we agree, so I can do whatever I want usually.
Chtěla jsem se zeptat, Kristý, ty víš o jiných aktivitách, které se dělají třeba ve městě, ve Slatinянech, kde bydlíš?
So do you know about some
No,
other
tak
activities in
většinou
your place?
to máme tak, že v ústavě to vedeme jakoby ten pěvecký kroužek, třeba zpívání a trivium se Zuzkou.
So it's
Docela mě to
usually
baví.
like that we
Jsem s
have
tím
just an
spokojená.
offer in an institution, the activities we can attend, and I'm quite satisfied with this because I like these activities and I don't know about any other because I don't have a chance to know because nobody offered me to do anything else in the town where I live.
A co ty, Marťo, víš o těch aktivitách, které se dějí třeba v domově dětí a mládeže, nebo o jiných věcech, které se dějí, nabízí se?
Vím.
No a využíváš těch aktivit?
Ne.
So do you know about some activities? Yes, I know about them, but I don't use them.
A můžu se ptát, proč ne?
And why?
Protože mám strach, že by mě tam nevzali.
Because it's difficult for me because I'm afraid that I won't be accepted. And we discussed this as well with his mom, and she said that she never thought about this, like to provide for Martin some leisure activities that, like normally in a city. So they usually just use the school for children with special needs where Martin goes.
Teď se zeptám ještě, Marťo, ty chodíš teda na aktivity ve škole, tak proč zrovna využíváš tyto volnočasové aktivity?
Protože tam mám hodně kamarádů a je s nima legrace.
So I'm happy in the activities in my school because I have friends there and I feel comfortable there and we have fun together. Just I feel good.
A ty, Kristý, proč si vybíráš ty aktivity v instituci? Proč chodíš do kroužku zrovna v ústavu?
Protože že jsem s tím spokojená a velice mě to baví.
Yeah, I'm very satisfied and I just like it and I'm used to go there because I live there and I don't know anything else.
A koho potkáváš vlastně v těch aktivitách v tom volném čase?
And who do you meet?
No, tak potkávám většinou z ústavu kamarády.
Yeah, I only meet the people and the children and my friends from the institution because it's just for them, these activities.
A ty, Marťo, když máš ty volnočasovky, s kým se tam setkáváš? Když hraješ na buben nebo chodíš na ping-pong?
Who do you meet when you play school, when you play hockey? Yeah, I meet the people from school, but these activities are open for the children from community as well, so I meet other people and other children as well.
Děkuji. A jak se ti třeba, Martě, povede, jak často se setkáváš s lidmi třeba z vesnice, kde bydlíš?
Skoro každý den.
So how often do you meet the people from community? I meet some every day.
A jaké máte vztahy? Rozumíte si?
And who are these people and what are your relationship?
Rozumíme si velice dobře.
I like them very much because they are usually friends of my family and brother.
A Kristý, ty, kdy máš příležitost takhle se setkat s lidma z města, kde bydlíš, ve Slatíňanech? Při jaké příležitosti, kdy se s nima tak setkáváš?
No třeba když jdeme na schůzi obyvatel nebo nakupovat, tak se většinou setkávám jakoby z města.
A jak často to je třeba tak přibližně to
I usually meet some people when I go shopping
jednou měsíčně nebo každý den?
Some kind of like meeting inhabitants of the institutions, but they are usually just the people from institution. But I usually go shopping once a month with some carer because I can't go on my own to the town, so she needs to be accompanied by somebody.
Děkuji, Kristýno. Tak a teďka přejdeme k vašim zálibám. Kristý, a ty a tvoje kolo.
Let's go closer to your hobbies. What about your bike?
Pojď nám říct, tebe to v té animaci to tam bylo krásně vidět, kdy jezdíváš na kole.
So when
no,
you
tak
usually
když je slušný
ride a bike?
počasí
It has to be nice weather outside.
Dvě jakoby pracovnice, tak se mnou právě jezdíme na ty výlety.
There have to be two workers, two carers in my small family group home because otherwise I can't go out because one has to stay in a small family group home and another one has to go with me on a bike because I can't go on my own.
A když jsi byla teda naposled v nějakém větším výletě na kole do přírody?
And when was the last time you
to už bylo hodně
ride the bike
před letem.
Yeah, it's maybe 1 year ago and really long time ago.
Děkuji, Kristý.
Christy usually rides a bike just around around a small family group home, like because they have a very big garden there, so she can be there, but not in like community in the city park.
Dobře, děkuji. A ty, Marťo, ty máš taky rád jízdu na kole, jak jsme viděli v animaci. Co ty a kolo, jak často se jezdíš projíždět na kole?
How do you and your riding bike?
Skoro každý den, když je pěkný počasí.
Yeah, I can ride my bike whenever when the weather is nice.
A kam jezdíš? Jezdíš na zahradě?
And where do you go?
Po vesnici.
I can ride a bike in my village.
Děkuji. A jezdíváš sám, anebo musíš jít s
Can you
někým?
go on your own? Just
Jezdívám sám.
yeah, I can go with when I agree with my parents, or I can go with my brother.
Děkuji moc. Tak a Kristý, jak je to s tím bazénem? Ty jsi měla v animaci, že se ti líbí plavání.
No, tak chodím většinou se Zdenou Gregorovou. Tentokrát jsem byla ve čtvrtek.
So I can go swimming with some worker again. And it was very nice. I just was there last Thursday.
A když chceš jít teda na bazén, tak se prostě sebereš a jdeš, anebo...
So when you want to go swimming, you just can go.
Já nemůžu chodit sama,
No,
protože
I can't go.
protože
I
přes
need
tu
to wait when
silnici
somebody
je
pick
to
me up and go with
nebezpečné
me.
a musím někoho
Dangerous to
mít.
cross the street, so I need to have somebody with me.
A ten bazén je vlastně kde? To je nějak, to je ve vesnici, ve Slatíňanech, nebo kde je ten bazén?
Where is the
To
pool?
máme
It's
u
on a
nás
public
v
place
ústavě,
in your town?
ten krytý bazén.
No, it's not
A
a
je to
public place.
dobrý.
We have our own swimming pool in institution, like in a building.
Že můžeme i chodit i v zimě.
And
do
it's great
bazénu.
because we can go swimming in the winter as well.
Děkuji, Kristý. A Marťo, ty jsi nadšený hokejista. Hraješ aktivně hokej?
Ne.
Sorry. And Martin, you are a fan of ice hockey. Are you like active player? No, I'm more passive.
A,
Passive player.
a chodíš často pasivně podporovat hokej?
Jo.
And do you go often, like to support passively ice hockey matches? Yes, I go very often with my brother.
S bráchou si to teda užíváte a ještě nějaké
So you enjoy
jiné,
it with your brother.
ještě nějaké jiné akce, co si tak užíváš s bráchou?
And do you enjoy any other activities with your brother?
Jízda na kole a fotbal.
Yeah, he rides the bike with me. We played football together.
Děkuji. A ty, Kristý, máš ještě nějaké jiné aktivity, které tě baví?
No, tak baví mě dívat se na televizi, jízda na kole.
Do you have
a
any
ten
other
bazén
activities
mě
you like?
nejvíc zaujal.
I just like the swimming the most, and then riding bikes, and I don't know any other activities.
Děkuji. Marťo, otázka ohledně tvé rodiny. Co pro tebe znamená být v rodině, mít rodinu?
What does the family mean for you, Martin? To have a family?
Tak rodina pro mě znamená hodně, že se s ním jakoby můžu svěřit, že mě jakoby rozumějí.
The family is very important for me because they can understand me. I can tell them whatever I want, and they are just my support.
Děkuji. A Kristýna, tebe otázku, kdo je pro tebe nejbližší osoba v tvém životě?
Who are the closest people for you, Christine?
Tak nejbližší osoba je pracovnice a Verča, se kterou jsem v pokoji.
Yeah, the closest person is my key worker. It's like the main worker who is like responsible for Christy's individual planning and stuff like that in the institution. And then her best friend, she's her roommate as well.
Děkuji, Kristý.
Yeah, and just we would like to tell you a couple of words at the end of our presentation, which we like discovered with Ingrid while we were working with them. So, what prevents children with disabilities and those in institution from like active accessing from like leisure activities or leisure facilities? So it's definitely lack of staff to support children in many of institutions, because if you want to support them, want to like tell them it would be better if you go with them, but it's just impossible because they have too many things to do, like within the cleaning, you know, and doing like serving the food and stuff like that. So they would be happier to work directly with kids, but it's just impossible in, like, you know, in the managing of these huge institutions.
Also, what is a really big problem, the large number of people living in the institution. It's like big family, but do you imagine that you are parents and you have 40 kids to look after them? It's impossible to give them individual care and the love and to share their happiness and their worries, and it's what you can hear that what the message from Martin and from Christina, how it's totally different, and so we see that the large number of people in the big house, it's a really big problem.
And while we were working there, it's we tried many times to help them, to support, like to organize some activities in the community for just some children and some young people who are able to do it, just to, you know, go with some friend and just pay for a lesson of Zumba or aerobic or whatever. But they were always like, oh no, she can't go on herself, you have to go with her. And because Christy, she is adult right now, so she can decide that she would like to go there if she has the support. But they are usually very, how to say, like narrow, you know, invited, because they are just scared because they are responsible for them and they just don't want to let them go. It's like that they want to keep them there because it's the best for them. So it's very difficult to manage and to help them to organize activities in the community, because the institution where Christy lived is quite small town, it's not a city. So, and we have a lot of activities, a lot of leisure facilities there. But it's just impossible to persuade them or to support them, so it's very difficult. And how would living in family and community change this?
I have just fresh experience from the morning. We talked with Christy about new haircut, and she told me, yes, on Wednesday the hairdresser, he's coming to our institution and I will be in queue and I will get a new haircut. And I told her, we can go to the community, yeah, Zlatka has good hairdresser. And she told me, I'm not sure if the carers, they will approve that I can go there. And I, hey, how old are you? Come on. And she told me, no, it's better for me. I will be there in the institution and I will wait in the queue and I will get my haircut there. So now we are in process just to support Christy to go to visit hairdresser in the community and to tell, I want this color, and we will see. So more opportunities and options. It's like in institution, just example, another, you can choose one vanilla ice cream. Vanilla is good flavor, but you can, you know, in the world you can taste another flavor, but in family it's much easier. It's more flavors you can try, but in institution you just know vanilla ice cream, but all the time it's a little bit, you know, not fun.
Yeah, and we are trying very hard just to provide these opportunities, because sometimes the children and the young adults, they are not used to like give them. So if you ask them, so you can choose whatever you want, so they are lost, they are totally lost. So it's very difficult to start like from like giving them opportunities, but we usually have to start just from two choices, like two things, you know, to choose, because they are not used to choose. So it's very difficult for them, and they feel that they just don't know what to do. And we think that to living in family could help children and young people to be a real part of the community. So it's very important.
I just want to say experience when we started to inform community about DI process, And another things which are going with that. What was first problem when we told them that the small kids, they are going to live next door. So they had problem that the kids from institution, they are going to share playground with their kids. So for us it was like another alarm, like, hey, we should go to and to talk to community and to share experiences, to do some fun and some sport activities and enjoy with kids and with other kids from families, and to do more like we are together, we are really living together, not just we are next door and we don't want to know about you. And what's happened, they just send a petition like, we don't want these kids on our playground. So it's for us another challenge to work with people in community and to tell them more about us, about our job, and just to do some program for them. I don't know, it's inspiration.
Yeah, and living in a family is of course very important because the child has just somebody be with all the time. So it can't happen in an institution. Yeah, and then we just we've been thinking about what should be added, like in the declaration, some our ideas that we discussed this with the foster families who have children with disabilities or without disabilities, that they would need more opportunities, more leisure facilities, where the activities would be focused just to play together and without focus on results and performance, because we have a lot of leisure activities in Czech Republic where you have to be accepted, like you do kind of interview at the beginning as to the university, which is very difficult for some parents with health children, like without any disabilities. So they were very crazy about this, that they are not able to provide their children any activities where they could just have fun and not be under the stress. So we are just thinking about this idea, how to do it.
And also this idea that countries should involve people with intellectual disabilities in organizing leisure activities, providing them with the adequate support, like they could lead the activities and be leaders and show we can do that together.
Yeah, we have actually one project we would like to develop with Christine Managing, just to help us to lead the group of smaller children and to be like support there. So we will try if it can work, and then maybe we'll persuade somebody to do the same or develop the idea. Yeah, and then how can being involved in activities support children's independence, which is very, very important, to be independent and to have some self-conscious. So we think that they can feel accepted without any prejudices, which is very important for them when they come to community. And usually it's like, maybe it's caused by lack of information of the people in community, that they are scared of these people, they don't know how to behave, what to say, how to ask them. So we think that it could help if they were just more with the people in the community.
And we hope that the limits and barrier will not exist anymore.
And we think also that the community would benefit, like from everyone living together, because maybe it's about long history of Czech Republic, that we just were used to close these people in the big institutions and just hide them, not to be with them. And Slatňan is the place where Kristi lives. It's really quite small town, and the people are used on it there. But it was still like that the people stayed in the institution behind the quite high wall, and nowadays it's changing and the people are like scary. Oh, they are going to move, in our houses, and they will our neighbors, and we are not ready for it. So because they have already about 2 flats in nearby city, and it was very hard to start there because the neighbors were like, oh, who's gonna live next door, and we wanna, you know, they are just scared that they will do, I don't know what, but it's usually the community is not just aware about these issues, so.
Okay, we've one more event now before our lunch break, and Mark will introduce, we have a very special and different kind of a lunch event. Don't worry, you're getting food, but there's another nice added dimension to it, which Mark will share when we move into lunch. But before that, we're very lucky and very fortunate that my good friend and colleague at NUI Galway, Professor Eamon O'Shea, who is a very close working colleague of ours with Pat Bennett here, but you will know Eamon from another guise and another role he plays at the moment. He is a Tipperary hurling manager and currently about to go into an All-Ireland final in this very stadium on Sunday week. I had to get Eamon a glass of water when we arrived because he saw the black and amber of Florida, but I assured him it wasn't Kilkenny here already. But just to say that Eamon is incredibly busy, but he's very committed to the whole issues that we are discussing here around sport. And even, I mean, I was struck when we listened to our colleagues from Lumos and from the Czech Republic about the very simple thing of being involved in recreation or sport in your community as a living communicator, as a living concept. And for those of us that are passionate about sport, whether watching it, playing it, or enjoying it, the connection with community is huge. And Eamon's going to talk to us today about his take on the role of sport and youth engagement from his own perspective. So thanks very much to Eamon O'Shea.
Thanks, Pat. So I come from a sort of different academic background than perhaps most people here. I'm an economist who works mainly with older people at the opposite end of the spectrum, so social gerontology is where I do my academic work. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit today. Pat and I were speaking over a period, and have spoken over a period about participation in sport and young people. And I just want to talk briefly from the perspective of a few different things that I have seen and done perhaps that may resonate with you in terms of the engagement of young people in sport and the benefits of that engagement to communities and the benefit of that engagement to the people themselves. It's funny being here today because when I come to the stadium usually I get an adrenaline rush that I have to control. But I'll control it for another week because in a week's time we enter the stadium for the All-Ireland final and with a big audience. But part of the interesting thing about sport that I want to talk about is that paradox at the heart of sport, I think, that there is this competitiveness and yet there is this cooperation and participation. And so at the high end of sport that I work with elite athletes, you have to talk about competitiveness and so on, and about reaching excellence and so on. But on the other hand, we talk to the same elite athletes about engagement and about cooperation and about caring and about the willingness to work with other people. And particularly, we talk to them a lot, I talk to them a lot about failure and the need to put failure into perspective, because you can't perform in an audience to an audience of 80,000, or whether it's American football and Penn State playing on here on Saturday, you can't perform to that audience without appreciating that failure is an implicit part of sport. And one of the things that I've come across that in particular is I also work with younger people, and have worked with young people as part of the GA or Gaelic Athletic Association. I work with girls playing camogie, my own daughters play camogie, my sons play hurling. So I've trained all teams up along from under 8. And one of the interesting things that you come across straight away is that the essence of participation, but when the kids try to master sport or master a game like hurling, ultimately you have to deal with, I can't do this, I can't manage this, why aren't I good at this? And also you have to deal with the whole social context in which that takes place. And the social context is, for us at least, I work in a suburban area in Galway, but I come from a rural background, The context is the social context in which that takes place. In other words, that engagement with your sport and mastering a sport, and at the same time, that engagement of doing that in a public place, in a public space. And the importance of that for the development of the child and the development of them, not only in terms of, we associate sport with sort of physical activity, but the whole mental, or the whole importance to their sort of mentality, and I don't use the word mental health, but mentality of being able to sort of engage and to participate, but also in, as I said, this social context. Because one of the things that here at least, one of the things that engagement in the GA and rugby and football and so on does, is that it allows participation, or the beginnings of participation for younger people at a very early stage in the context of local communities, and in a sense of some sort of connectivity. I raised the issue about connectivity because it's the one thing at the elite level that I talk to my players about, that when they play in front of a packed stadium next week, and it's shown all over the world to Irish people, that they are in a sense connecting. But where they're connecting to, actually, is connecting to an emotional relationship that was formed when in the very early stages. So that relationship was formed the first time they went down to the local club, the local pitch, and wanted to become good at a particular sport. Now these guys became good enough to play, and good enough to play at a high level, but that connectivity applies to everyone. It just doesn't apply to the guys who make it right to the top and play at elite level. That connectivity, in my view, is absolutely central to for the development of citizens, in their engagement with their communities and that attachment. So it's connectivity in a sense, I think, to not only other people, their peers, their families, their communities, but connectivity to a place. And for Ireland, connectivity to a place is, and I guess for everywhere, is especially important. The first question any Irish person asks each other is, where are you from? And the next question is, do you know somebody? And you know somebody, and it's interesting now that the GAA, the Gaelic Cadet Association, are a key element in gluing immigrants who leave Ireland together. So you go to New York or Sydney or London or Manchester, what you'll find is that people gravitate to the GA club in the same way as they gravitated maybe 30, 40, 20 years ago to the GA club in their local community. So all of this is by trying to sort of bring together the sort of, sometimes for me, the paradox, at least for me at high end at the moment of sport, of having people really competitive and at the same time say, look, you have to be competitive, but this is beyond competitiveness. This is something more essential. This is more essential to your being, to sort of relationships that you have and form and will be maintained all your life. So I see sport and kids as the beginnings of a relationship. Sometimes that relationship is to themselves, because if you ask me to define, at the end of, heading toward the end stage of my life, what defines me, I would actually probably note all the major events in my life in terms of sport. I could tick them off in terms of sport all along the way. And I think that's important. So in this is that relationship to self, but it's also a relationship to family, and sometimes that relationship to family in sport, for those of you who are involved with kids, can be too strong. Families tend to get too excited about sport and about winning, at least that's my experience. You have to calm them down. But it's that connectivity that I would see is the essential element of the benefits for me of engagement. And that connectivity is mentality, it's mental health, it's attachment. The other thing that I think sport does, for me at least, is that for kids and for adults, is that it sometimes brings them to places that they perhaps imagined they couldn't be. And I don't mean bring them to play in big stadiums or anything like that. It brings them to places in their mind that when I see kids playing, and I try to do this with the adults, the elite players, my view is that at elite level you can't actually be successful until you revert to actually being a child. And many of them are children. But leaving that aside, but you actually have to actually create conditions where they play in an environment where they're free. And the only place that they're free sometimes is they have memories of being free in sport. Now, absolutely giving up everything and being free. And it is in the essence when you talk to elite players and you ask them, you know, how did you manage to take that kick, or how did you manage to do this? They say, well, I was free. I had nothing on my mind. And one of the things, if you go into a playground, or as I coach young kids, that you don't have to organise this for them. They actually can go onto a pitch or go into a room like this and actually play. We as coaches sometimes stop that by saying, no, you can't play until I tell you to play. And then you can't play until I tell you there's a particular way of playing, and then you tell them when to stop. But if you think of your own youth and your own kids, actually you have to create a situation of freedom where kids are open to playing and where kids are let develop. And I think that sometimes what I look for when I'm thinking about adult competition, I look at trying to create that environment where you have that total freedom and that total relaxation. Because that's what we remember. If I ask you to remember something about your sport or involvement in sport, you will probably recollect some sort of freedom, some sort of energy that can be, if you can recreate it, you've got a powerful thing when it comes to competitive sport. So I think there's that, and I consider that a relation between being and doing. One of the things that you tell people all the time, all the elite coaches tell all their guys is, play in the now. Don't think of the last time you messed up, or the next time you might mess up. Think of what you're doing now. And kids, and in sport, they are really the essence of just playing now. And one of the things you learn is, and you have to relearn when you get older, is to be in the now. And the most powerful sporting successes, when you hear elite athletes talk afterwards, well, you know, I was completely in the zone. In the zone means you're not thinking about what happened this morning, you're not thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow, you're absolutely in the zone of complete and freedom and relaxation. And if we can get our kids like that, and if sport can help us to do that, then it's a really powerful force. And I think one of the things, it doesn't have to happen, you don't have to go on and say to be elite anything, you can just play. So I think that's the second thing. First one being cooperation, competition and cooperation, but the second thing being the being and the doing. And being and doing, sport I think is that interface of being as a person and doing as a person. And I think it's a powerful element to it. And sort of finally, in terms of the whole the essence of sport for me and the engagement is that kids learn, for me, they learn about winning, they learn about losing, they learn about hierarchy if we let them. Sometimes we try to protect them, and so you protect people by saying, well, you're not really that good, but you're okay. And you have to be really kind, but they learn themselves. They know where they are in this pantheon in terms of when they get to the pitch. It's we who confuse them, yeah, by either trying to navigate them through something that they pick up really quickly. And I think that element of success and failure is a really critical element to be a sport, and putting it in perspective. Because one of the things that I find at the elite end again of sport is that when everything is bound up in the sport, when you haven't mentally got to grips with your skill, your sport, it sometimes can also be a source of frustration and failure later on. Because if you can't understand and find yourself within sport and see your identity only in sport, you're not going to be a successful athlete. And similarly, when we're young, if we can't see the difference between success and failure and treat them the same, and particularly allow parents to treat them the same, because as parents put a value on success and failure way beyond the kids do. I have a big final coming up at under 13 in Galway, where I live. It's a big final for my kid. He's under 13, right? So it's a county final. He's thinking about it all the time. Now I can change his attitude really quickly on that. I can say, you must play well next Sunday or next Monday, and his attitude changes completely. Or I can say, look, it's great that you're in the match. It's just really have fun, I think you'll really play well. But it's the context And if he doesn't play well, I can equally then impact him and say, you know, you really didn't do well today, you know, it was a big match and you messed up. So it's the way we contextualise their engagement in sport, I think can be of good or bad. And I think we have to be really careful in terms of how we contextualise that. But for me, sport is mainly about failure. I've lost, let's say, I won't give you the percentage because, but I've lost more and more matches than I've ever won. So I've got to go back onto the training pitch the next day and say, look, things will get better. Yeah, we're going to win, we're going to be resilient, we're going to stay at this. And in a sense, that's what it is for me. For me, it's about staying the course. For me, it's about being resilient. For me, it's about sticking at it and encouraging others to stay the course, even when things look bad and bleak. And I think that, to me, is the final point I just want to make on sport for me. If I was to sum it up, and the history of my team this year, by the way, playing in the All-Ireland final, is certainly one of resilience, because we didn't take the linear path to greatness. It was a more obscure pathway. But getting here was certainly one of resilience in terms of just staying the course. And for me, what I'd like my kids, and I don't have your experience, professional experience with sort of in an academic side, but for me with kids and all the teams that I was involved with, if we can say that at the end of it, you know, that we stayed the course, we took the knocks, and it really doesn't matter how it ends up then. Yeah, because the journey for me is a critical dimension to involvement in sports. Thanks very much.